Good evening. We're going to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for this February the 7th, the year 2022. If you would stand for me at this time, we're going to start off with the invocation followed by the flag salute. Shall we pray? Dear Lord, we come thanking you once again for the gift of a brand new day. Just thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us within this day. Just ask that you would just look upon your city leaders tonight as we come together to take care of the city business. And all that we do, we want it to be pleasing and in your sight and in your will. Just give us direction. Bless our citizens. Bless us to come together in love, peace, and harmony here in our community. These are many other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Flag salute. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Finance Committee agenda item number 1, please.
Consider approval to retire and surplus Police Department K-9 Jangus and allow the current handler, Officer Bob Lynch, to take possession of said K-9 or take other necessary action.
Retirement time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Teehee.
Thank you, Council. This is kind of one of those neat nights. I want to take just a few minutes. Jangus has been one of our K-9s and is ready for retirement. I know a lot of you guys support our K-9 officers, and so I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update on where we're at as far as our K-9s go. So first of all, with regards to Jangus, he's had over his time 81 patrol deployments. Those included tracks, area searches, building searches for suspects in hiding. During those times, he's located 63 people out of those 81. So if you think about that as far as safety to our officers, that's 63 times that we could have had an officer have to go in to locate a dangerous suspect. So the other thing, he's also counted over $5,700 in cash from drugs, located 9 firearms, many of them were stolen, hundreds of narcotics deployments, removed numerous pounds of narcotics from the streets of Muskogee. Jangus not only assisted members of the Muskogee Police Department, but also the United States Marshal Service, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Muskogee County Sheriff's Office, Sequoyah County Sheriff's Office, Fort Gibson Police Department, Tahlequah Police Department, Shakota Police Department. His career also has been a part of 194 city narcotics cases, resulting in over $109,000 in fines and forfeitures. At this time, I present to you Jangus. I just want to say thank you, Jangus, on behalf of the Muskogee Police Department and from the citizens of Muskogee. The other thing before we get to that part of it, before we get to the vote, is just to let you know, recently, you remember we had 2 officers that were going for training and we got 2 new K-9s. We currently now are fully staffed in K-9 officers. Can't say the same for our patrol force, but K-9s we're fully staffed. We have Bob Lynch. His new dog will be Buster. We have Dustin Wisdom with his new dog Barry. We have Tyler Griffith with Loki and Taylor Hignite with Max. And those, now we have 1 K-9 on each squad. So 24 hours a day we have a K-9 available to the citizens of Muskogee. Any questions or?
Any questions for Mr. Teehee, or what is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item passes.
Can we have a picture, Mayor?
Yes.
Or council, whoever wants to get down here, I know you guys are all a part of this, so. Ready to go to work. Mayor.
A little bit closer, guys.
He's in spirit.
Thank you. Smile, Jangus. Thank you.
Enjoy retirement.
That floor's so slick, you can't walk on it.
Ready to get out of here. He was.
All right, item number 2, please.
Receive annual report from the Muskogee City County Port Authority regarding their industrial development projects, goals, and activities, and take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, Deputy Mayor and Mr. Chairman, I want to invite Kimber Scott from the Muskogee City County Port Authority to present. She has other members of her staff as well that will give us an update on their economic development and recruitment efforts.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. First and foremost, we value the partnership that we have with the City of Muskogee. We continuously work to create an environment for economic growth through advocating for pro-business, public policies, and delivering innovative programs and services to increase business investment and job opportunities in the Muskogee area. Since Marie last updated the council on July 26, 2021, we have had 7 announcements, resulting in $1.32 billion in investment and adding more than 300 quality jobs to Muskogee and Muskogee County. We have several projects we are currently working on that could result in more than $2.08 billion in investment and more than 1,300 quality jobs. The Port Authority is very thankful for the partnership we have with the city, the county, ODOT, and the City of Muskogee Foundation, resulting in more than $5 million in infrastructure improvements. That would be the water and sewer extension and industrial grade road improvements on Smith Ferry Road and South 24th Street West at Port of Muskogee John T. Griffin Industrial Park. This represents true partnership in my eyes and collaboration, the reason I believe we have seen such significant growth in the last several months. For those wondering why all of a sudden we have had an influx in successful projects, wins in Muskogee, some of the projects we have worked on for months. And as Scott Robinson would say, it's like running a marathon more than a sprint due to what has to be done and everything coming together for a win. On an average, there are 1,500 companies looking to expand or relocate in the United States, with more than 25,000 communities competing for their businesses. 75% of these projects end up locating in an urban area, while only 25% locate in a rural area. 90% of these projects employ less than 100 people. Recruitment is highly competitive, and the odds of catching the big fish are very slim. 80% of the growth comes from the expansion of existing businesses. If you can keep those you have happy, they will be your best ambassadors and best source of new community leads. My philosophy is you can accomplish more working together than you can independently of one another. As Michael Jordan would say, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. If everyone is moving forward and working together, then success takes care of itself. I'd like to introduce Jeff Underwood. He's the Deputy Director of Industrial Development, and Darla Heller, Deputy Director of Workforce Development, and they're going to speak about some specifics. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Jeff Underwood here. I am on my 89th day with the Port of Muskogee. Really enjoyed it so far, having this opportunity to represent the city as well as the county to be able to do industrial development. Before you guys, I created a one-pager that you have. Kimber talked a lot about that. I want to deep dive just really quickly on some of the numbers here and what we do. And I will say, first of all, we have a new contact management system at the port, which is really going to make us more effective, help our team collaboration. You know, we are managing what's called RFPs, requests for proposals. We're trying to turn those into actual attraction projects that we can bring here, and also dealing with expansion projects from our existing manufacturers. And so there's a lot to manage through that process, and this system is really improving that for us as well. On that note, we have had 20 in the last 6 months. We have done 20 business partnership meetings. What do I mean by business partnership meetings? Going out there, talking to the manufacturers, hearing from them, what are the challenges that you face, and how can we help you guys get over those hurdles? And on that note, we're going to have Darla speaking a little bit about workforce development. We're happy to have her on the team. But over here on my one-pager on the right-hand column, I'm going to break this down a little bit. We have had, over the last 6 months, we have submitted 16 different RFPs for those projects. These are companies, a lot of times these referrals may come from our partners in Tulsa, may come from Oklahoma Department of Commerce. Of those 16 right now, there were 3 of them that we did lose. We don't always get a reason why. Again, you're submitting a lot of these requests and seeing what you can get to stick. We have one that we're on the short list right now, which means that this company is going to come to Muskogee. We're going to be able to do a tour on site, hopefully be able to bring them here in the days ahead. On that note, we have had 6 different expansion projects that we are working on right now. The total investment is over $32 million on that, and the new job total is 141. On attraction and recruitment, so this is companies that are not in Muskogee looking to get them here. These are where we have engaged with them actively. They have been to the community, and we're talking about different incentive opportunities to be able to get them here. We have 11 of those projects in the pipeline, totaling over $3.7 billion and over 2,000 potential new jobs coming to the area. And so we do all of that trying to lead up to an announcement. And that's what I want to talk about now. We have had, and Kimber mentioned, 7. I've got here on my sheet 6 different announcements, half of those being expansions, half of those being new businesses to the area. A total of 207 jobs over the last 6 or 7 weeks that we have announced. And this is an average wage of $50,500 for these jobs, which the average wage for Muskogee County right now today is $45,000. So that is above average and something we're very proud about. And then also the total investment committed is over $1.2 billion. And so I just wanted to share that good news with you guys, the announcements. And I also want to turn it over here now to Darla to give a few words. And we're really blessed to have her coming to work on workforce development with us.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Kimber, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity. Again, Darla Heller on day 6 with the Port of Muskogee. I want to throw out a few workforce development figures to you and then tell you about, since day 6, and tell you about next steps and what those preliminary steps are around workforce development. So we all know that the unemployment rate is around 2.2%. That mirrors the state. That's what it is for Muskogee County right now as of today. We all know that our population is declining, but as we see that population declining, we have seen workforce participation rates in Muskogee go up over the last 5 years or so, just a few points. So that's some good news to report. Jeff mentioned our average county wage is right at $45,000. That's up from the last couple of years. And currently today we have around 487 unique job openings in we had that for January of 2022. So and those come from mainly healthcare, education, retail food service, and also manufacturing. So we do have open jobs. But as Jeff and Kimber could both tell you, when businesses are looking, the businesses Jeff spoke about relocating, about expansion, their number one issue is, can I get that labor force I need in order to expand and grow? So workforce development and paying attention to that is very, very important. So on that front, you all have some information about our Workforce Center of Excellence. Our predecessors and from our team did set that in place, so we have a roadmap by which we can advance our workforce development initiatives. We as a team are going to make sure that that roadmap is in line with our existing industry's desires and needs for their work, for their talent pipeline. So that's step 1 for us. It'll also be in order to listen to those existing industries, make sure that we are providing them with all the career awareness activities that they desire, as well as career fairs, and connecting them to education and curriculum moving forward. We also want to look at recruiting folks to fill those positions. How do we recruit businesses, but how do we recruit that talent that we need to? Our team is very dedicated into bringing new investment through workforce development by way of grants to Muskogee and Muskogee County. We're looking at applying for a sector strategy grant through the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, as well as a USDA grant for $500,000, focusing on a high-tech park to do some training. So I look forward to working with all of you, working with our education providers, as well as this amazing team to move workforce development initiatives forward for Muskogee and Muskogee County. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the council?
Good job. Thank you guys for all that you do for the city.
We'd like to congratulate Kimber as well as Jeff and welcome Darla to the port, and you guys are doing a great job, and thank you for what you do. Yes.
I was going to say, we can't forget Kim sitting back there, too.
Kim.
She's just not in the limelight.
Kim and Scott.
Yeah.
Yes, Scott, for your years of service to the port. Great things. Thank you, guys. Item number 3.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of January the 3rd, 2022, or take other necessary action.
Reviewing our minutes, are there any corrections or additions to our minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve our minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous. Yes. Tracy McGee. Yes. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Yes. Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 3 passes. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments December 25th, 2021 through January 28th, 2022, or take other necessary
Do
action.
we have a report from the purchasing committee?
Yes, the purchasing committee did meet this afternoon, and we approved all the claims, so I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve our claims list. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval to award a contract to Mason Enterprise in an amount not to exceed $39,897 to replace the HVAC at Three Rivers Museum or take other necessary action.
Jimmy,
Yes.
yes, we'll present Jimmy Thompson from Facilities at this time.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. What you have before you, we need to update 5 of the 6 air handling units at Three Rivers Museum. There are 5 of the 6 units are 20-plus years old and on their way out. We had a total of 5 bidders on that, and out of 5 bidders, we're recommending Mason Enterprises. The numbers that you have before you, there was an oversight in typing on the dollar amount. It should be $42,857. That would include any unforeseen refrigerant lines or anything like that that might need to be replaced. Again, we have 5 contractors that bid on it, and Mason Enterprises was the lowest best bid that supplied all the necessary documents. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval with the amended amount of $42,857.
Have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Yes. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 5 passes. Item number 6, please.
Consider approval of the state contract pricing from John Vance Fleet Services in the amount of $34,520 for the purchase of one 2022 Ford F-150 Crew Cab 4x4 for the Public Works Street Division or take other necessary action.
Mr. Swepson?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the committee. As you know, ever since the pandemic, the auto industry's been hit real hard with the chip shortage, having to shut plants down. So this vehicle and the one on the next agenda item are actually carryovers from last year and probably the year before. So they are in this year's budget, just carried over. We have been having a very difficult time securing vehicles and equipment, as you can imagine. John Vance actually spec'd 100 of these out, identically the same, put an order in, and they were notified that they would actually be getting those. So we were on a cancel list, a will call, if you will. By the time they got down to us, they'd already pre-sold 87 of those. So I told them to please earmark a couple of them so we can run this through and get approval to purchase these. With that being said, they should be delivered at the end of this month, if all goes well. So we are very excited to be able to find vehicles because we have been pretty much without any luck for the last couple of years. So with that being said, we recommend approval to purchase this vehicle on state contract from John Vance Fleet Services for $34,520. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or put it at the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee. Yes. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 6 passes. Item number 7, please.
Consider approval of the state contract pricing from John Vance Fleet Services in the amount of $34,520 for the purchase of one 2022 Ford F-150 Crew Cab 4x4 for the Fleet Management Department, or take other necessary action.
Mrs. Swepton?
Thank you. Same information as before. Be a carryover from years past. This vehicle, it's a little easier to describe what it's replacing. The other one's kind of a hand-me-down, so it's upgrading several in the Public Works Department. But this one will be replacing a 1998 model truck that's in the Fleet Department. We've been waiting on availability for something for a couple of years. Happy to be able to find something, so we recommend approval for $34,520 to John Vance Fleet Services. Happy to answer any questions again.
Move for approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve this agenda item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Item number 7 passes, and with that item passing, that is our final item for our Finance Committee.
Welcome to tonight's Public Works Committee for February 7th, 2022. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of January 3rd, 2022, or take other necessary action.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Item number 2, please.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4152A to rezone property addressed as 3701 South York Street, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agricultural District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, this is a request from Kurt McClelland. They are the owner and applicant. It is to rezone to their acreage, approximately 13 acres that's currently zoned R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agriculture. It is to allow for agriculture use. The property's address is 3701 South York. This is an aerial view of the property. And then this shows the zoning classifications that surround the property. To the east is outside city limits, to the north is residential, to the south is residential, and farther south is some residential agriculture. And then there is the planned unit development subdivision called the Woodlands to the west. It is a request to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agriculture use, and it is for farm use for his family. Staff recommends approval. Planning Commission denied the request. The applicant is here, willing to address the committee if you have any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions myself.
We have five people signed up to speak. I'll call the first one up. It's Rachel Neighbors.
I didn't know if you wanted the applicant to address the committee first, or how's that?
Mr. Tucker?
It's completely up to you, Madam Chair. Typically, the applicant will, when there are individuals who are signed up to speak to object, the applicant will respond last.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Rachel, would you wait just a moment?
No, go ahead with the...
Okay, Rachel, I'm sorry, come on.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, what I said was when there are property owners who are objecting, we usually allow the applicant to speak last to be able to address any concerns that may be brought up.
Would you give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Rachel Neighbors. My address is 1808 East Woodland Circle. I know there's several of us that have signed up to speak. We will be speaking on behalf of our neighborhood, which there's a lot of us here. We did not all sign up to speak to save some time. But we adamantly oppose this rezoning. Personally, for me, I lived in an agricultural zone. I chose to sell and move out of that and moved into a residential zoned community. I feel like if the applicant wanted to have a farm, he should have purchased land that was already zoned that. The rest of us should not have to suffer our decrease in value of our home, which will happen. He spoke this morning about wanting to have 1,000 chickens on the property, as well as pigs and cows. We have a really nice neighborhood, and that will decrease the value of our home, and we do not want to smell or have any of the other runoff from the chicken coops that he will be having in our creek. I think it's Cootie Creek, is that right, Michelle? Runs along our property and his property. So we're concerned about that as well, the spill off in the creek from the animals. I think that's all I have. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. John Leeds.
John Leeds, 1925 East Woodland Circle. I'm a lifelong resident and farmer in Muskogee County. I live in the Woodlands. There's a whole county full of farmland that can be used for livestock outside of city limits, and there's very few places that you can't have livestock. So we moved to town to be close to school and have city amenities, and we would like to oppose the change in classification. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams. Mr. Brad Williams.
Brad Williams, 2101 East Woodland Circle. Just to add to what they're saying, you have the runoff from the chicken coops that runs into Cootie Creek. That is definitely an issue that we're concerned about. Typically, we don't want to have this in our backyard. This won't be in our backyard. This will be in our front yard because this is at our entrance that we maintain. We are a private road. We maintain all that. It is a part of that is in a flood zone, so part of his property, the applicant's property, is unusable for this purpose, a small portion of it. To the south, you have 40 acres that was just recently purchased. There is a potential for development there. I have spoke to that landowner. He is opposed to this as well. He does not want this to happen. This will devalue anything that he's trying to do, as well as anything that we have built. So we ask for consideration to be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Michelle Osire.
Good evening, Council. Mayor, my name is Michelle Olshan. I live at 1812 East Woodland Circle in the Woodlands Development, and I'm here opposing the rezoning of 3701 South York. And my argument against this rezoning is this. Many homeowners, including myself, have invested tremendous amounts of time and money into the Woodlands. We want not only to preserve our homes, but the surrounding common property, which includes Cootie Creek. The Woodlands is the only development of its kind on that side of the city, and many homeowners, as previously stated, moved outside of the city limits to the Woodlands because they wanted to live in a residential neighborhood and be surrounded by residential land. And while I have nothing against farming, if the applicants wanted to farm, they could have purchased already land that was agricultural zone. There's so much of it here around Muskogee County. At the zoning meeting, the applicant had mentioned that he wanted to raise hundreds of chickens and pigs and cows. Now, I don't know if anybody has had to live next to a pig farm, but the smell is not good. It's not good. I'm concerned with not only about the smell, but the hundreds of animals that he stated. And Brad had mentioned that the acreage belonging to the applicant and the woodlands at the front of our development is very prone to flooding. and it borders Cootie Creek, and the creek floods very heavily, and sometimes it closes off York Street, as many people have tried to get down York Street in heavy rain, and you can't because it's flooded. Very little grass grows right there at the front of our development. We have all these trees, so the sunlight doesn't get in, and that acreage up there is very swampy, and it's very swampy for days, which would mean there's less room for farm animals to move around for extended periods of time because of that swampy land. I'm also concerned about the waste. When it rains, it'll slide right down through our development and right into Cootie Creek, which is already, everybody knows that Cootie Creek is already stressed as it is. I mean, it's a very delicate ecosystem, and having all of that animal waste would be an issue. And many of us enjoy sitting in our backyards, and we have a ton of problems with the horse flies and the mosquitoes as it is. So adding the waste of farm animals on top of that and the smell is very concerning to us. I'd also like to call into question section 14-34 of the city code regarding swine within city limits. Is that still not allowed? I had read, I'm not sure if you can have swine in city limits.
That is still in effect, that ordinance.
Okay, so considering we are in city limits and he wanted to have swine, pigs, our homes are upwards of $400,000. All of the homeowners that live in the woodlands purposely invested in the city of Muskogee. We could have lived anywhere, but we chose to invest, buy homes, buy property, and develop and live in the woodlands. So I'm asking each of you to please vote against rezoning of 3701 South York in order to save the integrity and the value of the homes in the woodlands. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Andrew Olson?
I waive.
You waive, okay. Okay, Mr. Kurt McClellan?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Oh, my name's Kurt McClellan. I'm at 3701 South York. And good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. It's kind of comical, actually. We moved here from Louisiana in May to build a farm for my grandkids. My oldest grandson moved from Illinois to come here because he wanted to raise animals. When we moved here, it was hard to find property. We actually bought the first thing that we could find because everything was being sold before we could get in. And we paid upwards of $400,000 for our property too. I intentionally spoke this morning about regenerative farming. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's not what people are making it out to be, okay? We raise cows and paddocks, okay? And what I said this morning was we wanted to have 1,000 chickens a year, but that's 240 chickens per cycle. So there would never be more than 240 chickens on the property at one time. And they live in tractors, okay, which can be moved every day. It was commented this morning that, well, the tractors are there, they haven't been moved. Well, we don't have any meat birds in the tractors right now to move. We have 6 hens or 8 hens and 1 rooster. We have another tractor out there that has other roosters in them because Tractor Supply sold us hens, but they turned out to be half roosters. Go figure, right? In a week or two, those will be ready to process, and there won't be any more roosters out there, okay? But the whole idea, Joe Salatin, as a regenerative farmer, he's famous, he's written books about it. I encourage my neighbors to read up on it because it's actually good for the land. We're trying to start a small business, like the lady said earlier from the not the unemployment, but the labor force. She said people are leaving Muskogee. Do you really want to shut down a small business? You know, it's phenomenal to me. You know, they talk about their property values going down. I don't want my property values to go down either. I don't want smell by my house. I wouldn't be building something next to my $450,000 home that was going to be smelly and run down the price of the homes. It just doesn't make sense. You know, and if they read Joe Salatin's book, or if they would watch John Suskovich's YouTube channel on this, it shows you how beautiful the land is when this is done there. It's not just stones and holes and weeds growing out in the property. Okay, and I guess I'm a little concerned, Mr. Mayor, that this is kind of a slippery slope. These people say I should have did my due diligence and I should have moved into a property that was already zoned agriculture. But I'm not asking them to change their property to agriculture. I'm changing my private property to agriculture. It's not in their subdivision. They're not changing their road runs down the side of my property, but I'm not trying to change their stuff to agriculture. I want to change my property to agriculture. It's not going to affect them at all. They haven't provided any evidence, haven't provided a pro forma to show that the land is going to be of less value with my farm next to it. There's no evidence of it. That's what they feel, but that's not necessarily the way it is. And the last thing I'll say is the land use maps that we talked about this morning in the meeting this morning, talked about, the stipulations and the qualifications for this thing to be in agriculture. And we met all of those qualifications. And to vote anything other than yes to this rezoning would be arbitrary. I don't know if we want to go down that road, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your consideration. No disrespect to my neighbors. I haven't met any of them, but I did speak to the neighbor right behind me, and the neighbor across the street from me, and the neighbor right to the south of me, and everybody was okay with what I was talking about doing. Now, some other people are saying no, but we're not trying to change their property. We're trying to change our property. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We will now close the public hearing and have council discussion.
So, Ms. Callahan, you said planning deny it?
Planning Commission did recommend denial.
Did they say why?
Not a specific reason. Initially, it was the fear of possibly future medical marijuana grow, but if the specific use permit passes, then that would cover that. But no, they did not say a reason. I think it was.
And you guys agreed, you approved it?
Staff recommends approval. They have the acreage, and the future land use map does show the area to be residential, and residential is in with that agriculture. Our future land use map does not show specific areas recommended for agriculture, so that may be something to look into when it's updated this year. But it is recommended for residential, and agriculture is residential.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Madam Chair, I move for approval to move forward with the Planning and Zoning recommendation of denial.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
I want to be clear, when you said consider approval and then denial, I want to make sure that we're clear on the motion. So
move forward with an approval to move forward with the Planning and Zoning recommendation of denial of the rezoning.
So to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny. So a yes is to deny.
Okay.
Tracy Hoos,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 3, please.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4151A to rezone property located at the west end of 301 North York Street, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R1, single-family residential, excuse me, to C2, general commercial district, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Okay, we'll open public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. This is a request from the Lynn Kirk Management. They are the owners of the property. The applicant is O'Reilly Auto Parts. It is to rezone a newly acquired property that is to the west of the existing facility that is on Broadway, but it is now consolidated with the rest of the what I would call the O'Reilly's campus. They are looking to do expansion, and that it would go to the west there. So they have asked to have the property rezoned. The request is from the R1 single family to the C2 general commercial because their existing property is already C2 general commercial, and they would like to and need to have the property all zoned under the same zoning classification for lending and title purposes.
We need to open that door.
Nope.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and have council discussion.
I'm
sorry.
sorry that with all of that I stopped because I know that it has to have the door open for.
Okay.
This does show the aerial map. You'll notice that it is the O'Reillys, and then the red overlay is the property that's being requested for the rezoning. It is surrounded on the north and the south, and some on the west with residential, but that is expanding that way. As you'll see to the south there, it is commercial, and that's the Walgreens, so it is on York Street, heading more to the west and having that expansion area, and across there to the east is also commercial surrounding it. And staff does recommend approval, and Planning Commission recommended approval.
We'll close the public hearing. Council discussion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 4.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4150A to rezone property located west of South 55th Street between Tennyson and Estelle, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R1 Single Family Residential to R5 Mobile Home Zone, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
Open the public hearing. Is the public hearing open?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And I do need to make a correction, and I wasn't able to get with Tammy prior to the meeting, but the request is to go from A agriculture, the A1 agriculture, to a R5 mobile home zone. It was published that way, and notices were sent out that way. When I prepared the agenda, I just went, everything else was R1, so I guess I just went R1 rather than agriculture. So I do need to make that correction, and by council, I'll change that agenda to show that it is from agriculture to the R5. It is to allow for the gentleman, the owner is Thomas Hill. He's the owner and applicant to go with R5 to do mobile home development. This is a map of the areas. You'll see it's west, so it's at 55th, where 61st is the city limits, and also it's at Tennyson, where just south of that is the city limits also. This is showing the atlas map where this property is zoned agriculture. There is surrounding mobile home zoning classifications. And then this map shows where there's not only just, if they're not zoned for mobile home, there are mobile homes that are placed in that area. This is the request, like I said, Thomas Hill, and it is to go from A agriculture to the R5 mobile home. Staff and Planning Commission recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and have council discussion.
Move for approval.
Have a motion? Second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 5.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of Resolution Number 2889, amending the land use map regarding property located on the northeast corner of North 40th Street and West Shawnee, more particularly described in the resolution from residential to local commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the land use map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We'll open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. This is where we get, it's very confusing, is that we're hearing this item that is for this property that is at 40th and West Shawnee, and what it is doing is changing our land use map so that we can hear a rezoning request in the future for this area to do from residential to commercial. The property is currently zoned R4 multifamily, which is a residential zoning classification. The land use map Future land use map shows residential for the area, and the request for rezoning requires this land use map to be changed from residential to commercial to even hear the zoning request. It is located there on the map, and staff and planning commission recommend approval. I believe there's some signed up to
We
speak
do
on
have
this.
2 people signed up to speak. Eddie Morris, would you come to the podium and give us your name and address? And you'll have 3 minutes.
5 minutes. Evelyn?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Eddie Morris. My address is 2231 North 40th West. I would love for this property to stay for residential, or, you know, for that reason, we don't need any, or I don't think we need any of the others. I just don't want anybody that's commercial property to come down into a residential area and build. So with that in mind, I just hope it stays residential. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Morris?
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I'm Brian Morris. I live at 2400 North 40th West. I own approximately 21 acres on this street. I also own 12.3 acres that is adjacent on Palm and 40th, where this property is across from. I'm opposing this to go to commercial. I'd like for it to stay residential. All the properties down this road is residential. We've all invested a lot of dollars and time in investing in our properties, and we'd like to see it residential, even if it's multi-family dwelling. We'd like to see it that instead of becoming commercial. Just seems like between Honor Heights and Fern Mountain Road, you have a lot of community there and a lot of housing. Commercial would take that different. We would like to see it stay residential. Thank you.
We'll now close the public hearing, have council discussion.
Ms. Callahan, do we
Yes, sir.
know what the intent of the change is, the outcome?
I don't know if the representative is here. He was here at Planning Commission, the realtor. Oh, he is here. Oh, okay, and the applicant. I don't know if you want to ask them what their intention are.
I'm sure the committee has questions.
Committee Mayor, thank you guys for letting us be here tonight. My name is Chris Campbell. I'm from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I don't know if you need my address as well. I can give that at 905 South 3rd Street, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We purchased this property on the intent to put a small data center. Specifically, the data center has needs associated with power consumption, needing power, and we consulted with OG&E about properties that are available in the area. And because of the substation that is on, I think that's 40th and around the corner. I don't know if you got the map still up, but there, yeah, so directly on that street, there's a line that runs. It's a transport line, and because of its proximity to the property, it makes it ideal for this data center to have power. Ultimately, we would love to put a small building, warehouse, across the street from the other substation. There's a substation that sits there across the street from it. There's some residences that are already kind of butted right up against that substation. So across the street from the substation, we'd like to put a building. The northern part of the property would love to see some residential there that's next to the residences. We would not want to interrupt any of that. But across the street from the substation is where we ideally would love to put some type of commercial structure. And then on the hard corner of West Shawnee and 40th Street, we could see that best use of land, because of the corner down the road from Quick Trip and some of the other things on that street, that would be best suited probably for some type of light office use, no heavy commercial use. It would just be offices or something like that. There's not enough traffic for any other type of development because of it being down at the end of that street.
Sir, when you're saying data,
Mhm.
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so it is a place to hold computers that process information.
That part, what, Bitcoin?
Cryptocurrency is one use. We also do rendering. We also can do computations and equations and all sorts of things with it.
What is your intended use?
We do all three. So we do cryptocurrency currently. So it's computers that mine cryptocurrency, which is like the Visa MasterCard of cryptocurrency, so you're running those transactions. We also do movie rendering, so we actually utilize and outsource the computers to process graphics for movies. And then actually during COVID, we outsourced the computers to be able to be utilized for data processing for like vaccines or science, whatever it wants to be used. It's work for hire related to whatever the best use of those computers are.
Are you all doing this currently in Broken Arrow?
We're currently doing it in Wagner on my parents' property, but it's not zoned correctly for this type of use, and so it needs to be commercial. So we're at a smaller scale operation. Currently, we mine with about 700 kilowatts. This site would be able to host like 5 megawatts. From the exterior appearances, this would look like just a commercial warehouse that could be used for. We would want to make it functional as an investor to something beyond just cryptocurrency as well, and so it would just be standard to whatever commercial ordinances are here in the city. But ideal location would be right across from that smaller substation right there on the street. I don't know if you've been down that road. It's an older substation, and then there's a brand new substation that's further around the corner.
Council have any more questions? What's the pleasure?
Did you close the public hearing? Did we close it?
Close the public hearing?
Move for approval?
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second.
This does change the future land use map so that we can hear the rezoning request next. So this is an approval for the zoning.
We'll have discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just had a question. I have a question. What he's talking about doing with the Bitcoin mining, essentially, is that a taxable? Is there any way that we get tax revenue?
real quick? Is it too late to do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because it is in the city limits, this is a revenue generator for the city of Muskogee. There would be the franchise tax that would come off that. So all the power that's consumed, anywhere from $50,000 plus in taxes, easily would come from 5 megawatts of usage from the tax that you normally get off electricity for the city. Does that answer your question? Or helpful?
A little bit. I was just curious if there's anything you all do, the selling, mining.
It's not a sale of any type of like product. So there's not a sales tax associated with it, but there is revenue that would come back to the city for the electricity consumption. I would also add to say currently the property's been vacant for a really long time, and there's lots of debris on that. So we are thinking that would be helpful to the city just to clean it up. It's currently being dumped on, and so that's the other part there too that we would hope to see done for the property.
Is our infrastructure strong enough to handle that?
Oh, what do you mean?
Because there's going to be a lot of uses of electricity, right?
Yeah.
And do that affects the residential areas around? Will our utilities go up?
It should not. So the electricity consumption, we're partnering with OG&E on this. We've been in a lot of conversations with them. This is excess power that's already available. That's the only way that they can give that to us. So we would issue a will serve with OG&E to prove that they have extra capacity on the substation. So it's power that's not being currently utilized. As you also saw this last week in Texas, one of the things that cryptocurrency and these other power consumers really help is they actually improve the grid, because now it's a revenue stream that OG&E doesn't currently have, and so it helps them build capacity. And in the instance for power, additional power draws that could cause blackouts in the future, you actually can shut these operations down, and that's part of our agreement with OG&E, is that they would have the ability to shut us down in peak hours in the summer so that there would not be any blackouts and people could be accommodated. But then OG&E would have a revenue stream to actually be able to grow the grid. And so with the future of electrification, cars, all those things that are happening, we're actually seeing that these types of operations are actually improvement to the city infrastructure because it's providing revenue streams to grow capacity.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I'll be recognized.
Yes.
I want to ask the committee, should we consult with our OG&E representative prior to making this decision tonight? It would appear twice anyway, and so regardless of how we would take action tonight, it would still appear next week on council. And so I'm wondering, should we just have that conversation first and make a more informed decision next Monday? That would be my suggestion.
Madam Chair,
may I recognize?
Yes.
I want to follow in on that because some questions I have is if they are drawing that much power right now, all our utility rates just went up just from the weather storm. I understand it's going to reinforce the grid, but does that, questions we have for OG&E, is that going to allow other people to come in and develop, or is this going to be such a draw that that's kind of what the area is just going to be designated for? So I'm going to agree with Mayor Coleman that I'd like to have OG&E just come in and just to, if he echoes what he said, that's fine, but I think it is a conversation we have with them.
I withdraw my second.
I was going to say, Roy, do we need to withdraw?
Withdraw the motion.
Okay.
And then you'll need a motion to move forward to City Council with that recommendation.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 6.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4149A to rezone property located on the east side of North 40th Street, north of West Shawnee, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R4 multifamily to C1 local commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We'll open the public hearing. Tish?
Yes, and
Before we go any further, isn't this a compendium item to the first one?
yes, I was going to say that.
So, since you've moved the first one with that recommendation on the land use map, this is the actual rezoning ordinance.
Can't hear it.
So my recommendation would be to move this item forward with that recommendation to City Council as well.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please. Close public hearing, I'm sorry.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 7.
Consider approval of the preliminary and final plat of Sailor Place Edition, consisting of one lot on 2.18 acres located southwest of the silo at Doe Ring Crossing Addition and north of Club View Estates Number 4 at the end of Putter Place, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, are you all tired of me yet? Here we go. This is the last one. This is a request for a preliminary and final plat for a one-lot subdivision. It is located on 2.18 acres. It's a little difficult to identify because the silo at Doring Crossing is a new subdivision. And if anybody gets a chance, the owners are here. They can maybe speak on it also. It is a beautiful setting. The roads are finished. They've started pouring some pads. So the Doring Crossing is there, and then this is located to the south of it. And this will be accessed, though, from the Putter Place, from Clubview Estates 4th Edition. This is the preliminary plat. They met the qualifications on the preliminary plat. And then we have the final plat. And then I did as best I could to show where this lays with the Putter Place, and then the silo at Doring Crossing is there to the northwest. Staff recommend approval, subdivision review, and planning commission recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tish?
Move for approval?
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 8.
Consider approval of final payment to Direct Traffic Control Incorporated for Northeast Zone Striping Project number 202-1016 in the amount of $279,774.96, or take other necessary action.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
This project was related to the Northeast Zone. This is one of 5 projects we're doing in the Northeast Zone: the mill and overlay, the microsurfacing, and concrete, and the Four Corners project, and of course the striping. We were doing the striping, or we did the striping after we concluded the mill and overlay and the microsurfacing. We were able to do 7.5 miles of road and 10 intersections. There was no change orders on the project. The contractor concluded the project in 1.5 months as opposed to the 3 months that was allotted. There were no claims on the project, no complaints. I gave the project team and the contractor a 5 out of 5, and an excellent job on the project. We do recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
A motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Van.
On these mill and overlays, when you're putting it on the streets, are y'all checking the water mains where you turn them on and turn them off? The reason I was asking that because I was on the job the other day, and the water department had to flush. I mean, one part of the street, like on this particular street, the valve wouldn't turn off. Then the other one where it was supposed to be, it was covered up. So they had, you know what that consists of. You have to open all the fire hydrants. So I'm just wondering, when we're doing these projects, are we considering this about the water cutoffs?
Definitely considering it.
Because this one was covered up, sir.
Basically, I'm doing water projects all over the city as well, Package B right now. Cook Construction, if you notice, is doing all these tie-ins to get rid of the 24-inch lines we got running throughout the city. Some of these lines are over 100 years old. And yes, some of them are not on maps. Some of them are not readily evident where the line is running down the street. So we do coordinate with the water department to verify that they have concluded their operations and any repairs that needed to be done in the area on the streets. So we do our due diligence in trying to determine that all aspects of the job are taken care of underneath the roads. But you also have to consider you're driving heavy equipment on there, you're driving vibrators on there, you're driving rollers on those streets. So you do cause some vibration in the streets, which may turn loose water mains, connections, valves, that kind of thing. So I believe, Councilor Van, we are trying our best to take care of that.
What I'm saying is the valve itself that sticks above the street, when you're going down the street.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the one I'm talking about. Is when you're doing the street, you get with the water department, and they come out and mark the valves. That's what, like this particular street, I can take you out there tomorrow if you want me to, and show you what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is, we need a plan where we're not covering the valves up, so the water department don't have to open all these fire hydrants, is what I'm saying.
Yes, and we agree with you, Ivory. We know exactly what you're saying, and in the past, we have covered those water valves up, and that's why they had to uncover that. But Eric's department, Eric Twyman, is with Water Distribution. He's given a list of all the streets that we're going to overlay, and his job is to go out and check, make sure that the known valves, occasionally we'll miss one, but the known valves are marked. And we also give one to the sanitary sewer department so they can locate the manholes. So as Jeff stated, we're getting better at it. And some of the things that we still have, though, are past procedures that didn't go right. But we are correcting them. Jeff's correct. We're doing our due diligence.
I'm not going to say it on air, but tomorrow, if you have time, call me and I'll, Mr. Miller, if it's okay with you, I'll tell you exactly what this valve is and what street it's on, so you can go out there.
Yeah, Ivory, if you just text it to me, we'll be sure to look at it in the morning.
Okay, that'd be fine. I just wanted to make you aware, because that surprised me that day, you know. They couldn't cut the water off, but like I said, you know. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Could I say one thing,
Yes, sir.
Counselor? There are, in the northeast quadrant that we're working on right now, 130 valves and manholes. So we're doing our best, sir.
I'm saying. Thank you. Thank you. Turn the floor back over to Mr. Chairman.
A motion
And a second.
and a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 9, please.
Consider approval of the request from Muskogee Public Schools to change the northbound one-way traffic on Bacone Street between Hilltop Avenue and Georgia Avenue back to two-way traffic or take other necessary action.
Stewart?
Yes, we had a request from Dan Hall with the Muskogee Public School System to change Bacone Street back to a two-way direction traffic. This is between Hilltop Avenue and Georgia Avenue. Many years ago, we did turn that to a one-way on Muskogee Public Schools request simply because it was hard to get the buses up and down it. Traffic was parking on both sides, and you couldn't get traffic through there when school was letting out. They have informed me that they're no longer having kids at that school right now, and it's their request to put this back to two-way traffic. They have a different use for that school. So I would recommend approval. There's very little money involved in this. This is basically just going to take one-way signs up and installing one stop sign. So we do recommend approval upon their request.
Move for approval.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 10, please.
Consider approval of purchase of water distribution waterline repair supplies from Core and Main in the amount of $57,630.35 or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes, Core and Main is one of the distributors we've used for years for supplies in the water distribution department. This item before you, all the items that are on the purchase order are on state contract. The reason we've got it on the agenda before you is because it's over the $25,000 spending limit the city manager has. So we do recommend approval. Eric Twyman is here if you want more specifics on what the items are, but they're basically just day-to-day repair parts for water distribution. As requested in the past, we are trying to keep our stock up better, and I believe Eric's done a great job doing that. So do recommend approval, and Eric's here if you have any specific questions.
Move for approval.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask Eric one question. On your water meters, boxes, on your water meter boxes, are we in good shape on those?
The water meters?
Cans?
No, we're not. They're on back order. We've had them on back order for 3 months. The supply chain is really, well, like getting trucks. It's taken them 2 years. It's killing all the industry, all the industrial stuff. They've been on order for 3 months now, and I just called and talked about it today. They say hopefully they'll be shipped in a week, but we're waiting on the supplies to get here.
I know y'all can't get...
That's why this being of such a large magnitude is, if you get your order in, when the parts do come in, you've already, those are spoken for because you have your order in. You get dibs on the stuff. And this is why this is important.
Well, thank you. I was just wondering that.
Okay.
You know, thank you for your report, sir. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 11.
Consider approval of honorary street signs to be installed at 2nd and Court Streets and 3rd and Court Streets to be named Dr. Robert C. Smith Way or take other necessary action.
Yes, Madam Chairman and Committee, this item, I believe, was requested by Dennis Wilhite and also Mr. Van, Councilor Van. This is to rename Court Street between 2nd and 3rd to Dr. Robert C. Smith Way. We are going to have to put the signs on the opposing corners as to where they are at 2nd and Court now because Bass Reeves is on that corner as well. So we'll put the street marker on the opposing corner. It would be on the southeast corner of 2nd Court. And then we'd put it on the northeast corner or northwest corner on 3rd and Court. And then we'd probably put one mid-block right there where Lombard Street is. I understand that Dr. Robert C. Smith was a longtime family practitioner and was also one of the original members of the Muskogee or the Tuskegee Airmen. Do recommend approval, and I'll have Ivory assist me with any questions.
Move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dennis Wilhikes. He's very outstanding in our community. He's part of, the big sign right there by the cemetery, the Booker T Cemetery. Matter of fact, the Smith family is the one who owns that cemetery. And I went to school with a gentleman named Ronnie Smith. And I seen him about 2 years ago when we went to the state capitol to get an award. And so I talked to him last night. And he was asking me about the project, how's it's coming. And I'm glad, we're doing this for the Dr. Smith, because I remember when my mother used to go to Dr. Smith. And lived right there on 2nd Street. And so, like I said, I went to school with Ronnie Smith. And I'm proud of his family. They were very productive here in Muskogee. And I just, I'm just proud of them. And also, like I said, I'm proud of Mr. Wilhikes for always thinking of families and people to honor. That's what it's about, because they made a way for us. I'll turn the floor back over to you,
Thank you.
Ms. Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item 12, please.
Discuss and take action on a complaint filed under City Council Ethics Policy 1-10 against Mayor Marlon J. Coleman by Councilor Tracy McGee.
Yes, to my colleagues, I filed this complaint because it was my responsibility as an elected official to respond to a concerned citizen that noticed that there was no declaration anywhere on the card telling voters who paid for it. The concerned citizen reached out to myself as well as Roy Tucker. She asked if the mailer was paid for by the city. After speaking to Roy Tucker about the matter, he explained the policy adopted by Muskogee City Council and changes to the state campaign finance laws that made this applicable to the municipality candidates in Muskogee. You have before you tonight the findings from the investigation. We are elected by the people to be accountable and transparent to our citizens. I am not asking for punishment, but I am asking for the mayor to be accountable to our citizens and make a public apology to all the citizens, and I hope that my colleagues agree as well. Thank you.
Is that a form of a motion?
Yeah, that's my motion, and that's what I'm asking on this complaint.
We have a second? Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. We have two people to speak tonight. We have Mr. Carmen Anderson. Or Mrs. Carmen Anderson.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We have two speakers. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take them over 3 minutes, but I'd like to do this anyway, because this item to me is very important. I would like to suspend the rules give them each 5 minutes so they can give you a piece of information.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs. Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ms. Anderson, you will give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm Carmen Anderson. My address is 722 South 30th in Muskogee. I just really have some concerns on who's able to zone stuff, or like when we as citizens call in, some of us are denied access to zoning or, just putting up stuff. My other concern is I don't know if y'all have anything to do with the city or whatever, like the policing. That's one of my main concerns is in Muskogee is we as citizens, we don't have the rights when it's come up to the police officers at all. And I have asked plenty of times. I've called the mayor. I've called the chief of police and everybody else to have a meeting with me so I can get some of the other parents together as, won't make a race, but as black community to get together so we would know how to respond back to the police officers. And I have yet to have a phone call back from anybody and I am a concerned parent. My son was murdered, and I'm just wanting to know. I just want to have some answers. He wasn't murdered in Muskogee County, but still yet. I work in the court system. I've been in the court system for 20 years, and I don't see any good for our community. And I don't like to make it a race issue, but I would like for someone to meet with me, give me a phone call, something so that we can reach out and I could step in and help our community. Because honestly, I don't see what no one has really done for some of our I'm saying in our community. Okay? This is the first time that I've even known that I could really come in and speak before the council. Because like I say, this has hit me close to home. My mother was very active. She was Carolyn Embry, Carolyn Williams, Wade, but I'm just concerned. I'm really concerned. All the other stuff, the zoning and all that stuff, it really doesn't concern me as much as it do policing in the community. It has to be something better for our kids, for me as a mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Marshall.
Do I need to make the same motion, Mr. Chairman? I need to make another motion for
Your
her.
motion, Counselor Van, was for both
For both
speakers.
of them, yes.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Marshall, and I'm at 1019 Elm Street. And I live on the backside of Elliott Park. And I would love to see if y'all could get me some help. I've been fighting this issue for years, and it concerns a citizen, Ken Black. And he's living up on Elliott Park, not on his property. He's living on the backside of Elliott Park. And any kids, anything, y'all spent money on that walking trail back there. Y'all spent a lot of money. Won't nobody use it because of this man. He pulls guns on the children, that Sattler, the kids come down. He pulls guns on them. He's pulled a gun on the city workers for not, he won't let them cut the grass. Won't nobody go up there. You know, I've been living there, I'm 60 years old, and I've been there all my life. I've had physical confrontations with this guy. He set his dogs loose. He's violated the dog ordinance. He has about 13 dogs up there, and you're only supposed to have 2 to 3. And he is a nuisance. Just last couple of weeks, the McCoy kids were down there trying to do their community service and pick up trash. He came out with a gun and made them, they had to call the police. And you know who the police made leave? The children that are trying to work off their fines. You know, and he's harassing everybody in that area. And I've been fighting, I've been to court with this guy. I don't know what else to do. I'm asking y'all, please do something before somebody get hurt. I live just right behind him. And, you know, and this has to stop. You know, y'all have come down there, y'all have torn down all the dilapidated houses, but y'all won't tear his down. And he's not even living in them. And I've also have called. I called every year or every 2 years. I have 2 sons. One's a retired Marine. And the other baby boy wants to come home. So he wanted to see if he could put a trailer down there, you know, on my property, because I own a lot of property down there. I keep my grass cut every year. I've never, you know, let it get out of hand or anything. But when I called the zoning committee, they tell me, no, there's no homes, that trailer homes of any kind, wheels or nothing, that can't be put down there in Muskogee OT. But yet he's living on Elliott Park, not on his lots, but on Elliott Park, and in a trailer. And he's been there for 10, 15 years. Y'all have never done anything about it. I've been there, I've been up here. This is my second time, not in front of you guys, but this is my second time. But see, I'm retired now, so now I can really get involved with this. You know, we can't sit out in our backyard. We can't open our windows at night because all the dogs that he have up there, all the noise. We can't enjoy what I paid for, what we paid for because of him. You know, he rides around the neighborhood with spotlights in everybody's houses, you know, but nothing can be done. The police has been called. They act like they scared of him. You know, I don't know what else to do. You know, I'm begging y'all, I'm asking y'all, please help me, you know. So, I mean, he blocks off all his areas, but then he drives on Elliott Park doing dumping whatever he's doing, he dumps over there on Elliott Park. So, I mean, I've been there all this long, and we use that park to walk up there, because from my house to the trail is less than, 300 yards or whatever, you know, just across the field. And the police comes and tell me, well, just drive around there. Why would I want to drive when I can walk? But I can't walk because this man comes out, he lets his dogs loose. You know, I've called the animal control. They go up there, but then yet he can go to the animal shelter and work off his little fines and get more dogs and bring them home. But nothing's done about it. You know, he's got 2 dilapidated houses. One is halfway gone. The other one is just barely there. And, you know, I don't know what else to do. But he's living on there in trailers, but y'all won't let me and my son put a trailer home on my property that I pay taxes for, but y'all could let him been there for 10, 15 years. You know, I've let it go long enough. You know, so I'm hoping, you know, y'all can help me. You know, so I thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public forum to City Council.
We will now call to order the special call meeting for the Muskogee City Council for February 7th, 2022. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds. Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here. Item number 1.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4154A, amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, zoning, adding Article 23, specific use permits, Sections 90-23-01, purposes, 90-23-02, conditions for approval, 90-23-03, specific use permit list, 90-23-04, use conditions, 90-23-05, administration, providing for repeal or severability, and declaring an emergency or take other necessary action.
Mr. Beasy.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this matter was brought up at our council retreat, and staff was given direction to prepare an ordinance to bring forth for your consideration. Our current zoning regulations, the classifications we've talked about many times tonight, agricultural, commercial, residential, industrial, are fairly cookie cutter. You fit in one of them, you go there, the standards are the same, regardless of the use, if that use fits within the category. That works to a certain extent. In 2003, the state legislature decided to give municipalities a little more control and allow us to do specific use permits for items which were perhaps larger than may necessarily fit within a category, or may need stricter scrutiny or more emphasis or more requirements to allow them to best fit within the community, protect the citizens, and also allow the businesses to operate as effectively as they possibly can. So as we put this together, other communities have done it, and this is a dynamic document. So on page 2 of the document is the list of items that we've included which would require specific use permits. I will tell you that staff has reviewed this. Many of the communities that have done it had a more substantial list, 2 to 3 pages. We wanted to start out with what we saw as the most important, but as we go forward, this can be added to or taken away as the council and as the citizens best see fit to meet our needs. These were the largest ones that give you the, oh wow, that is unique to that area factor. So what we've done is added those in, and this creates a new process. Currently, our process to get a permit to do something within a zoning classification is fairly simple. You submit your application, you submit your fee, it's reviewed by planning department, submitted to planning commission, then ultimately to city council. The process, and I've handed you out a flow chart at the beginning of the meeting, is a little more detailed. It starts out with much more interaction between the applicant and our planning director. There will be pre-meetings where we discuss what they're wanting to do. The application process will be much more extensive and allow us to gain a lot more information. Oftentimes when matters come before you, one of the questions is, well, what do you intend to do with the process? With specific use permits, that will no longer be an issue because not only will we know, but we'll know with such depth that we can answer those questions and make sure it does in fact fit and require the specific use permit. Once the planning director has gone through the application process and the permit applicant has paid their $100 fee, then the matter will be submitted to the planning commission. The planning commission will hold a public hearing. Any people, much like all of our other processes within 300 feet, will be notified and have a right to come to that hearing. After receiving all of the information, Planning Commission will ultimately make a recommendation which will come to City Council to approve or deny, or in fact make additional restrictions, requirements, or recommendations beyond what the Planning Director might have done during the application process. Those are things such as additional parking, signage, colors, any number of things which are specific to that. And the purpose for that is not to be restrictive. The purpose is to tailor this so they can do what they see fit to best be productive and use their property, but also that we can be able to have oversight and dictate a little more specifically than the general zoning requirements do to make sure that they comply and that the citizens are protected. Once the Planning Commission makes that recommendation, any affected party can appeal that decision to City Council. So if the person making application has that application denied, they can pay a fee and have the City Council hear it. If any of the affected parties decide if the specific use permit is granted, want to appeal that decision, they have that same right, paying the fee, to have it fully heard before City Council. If no action is taken to appeal the decision of City Council within, I believe, 90 days, then that matter will come and be placed upon consent agenda like all the other items, and we'll go through with our normal consent agenda vote. As with other consent agenda items, any council member can pull that matter off and have it fully heard. If it is fully heard, you have the ability, just like Planning Commission did, to go through and add requirements, take away requirements, make modifications to the recommended permit, to approve as it's written, or to deny. All of the same rights exist at every level, but ultimately the decision to issue or deny the permit rests with council in the end, based upon the recommendations of Planning Commission and the Planning Director. Once it's done, the permit is issued. Just like many of our special exception permits, it must be used. If it's not used for a period of 2 years, this will expire. So somebody's not going to be able to get it and sit on it. These are supposed to be active and moving forward. What I will say as well is this list is dynamic. If there is something you see on it that needs to be taken off, we can change it, we can add to it, it can be modified at any point, and that is the purpose of it. 2 items that I will tell you that we are recommending be stricken. One is churches, because we don't believe after further review that that's necessary on this list. The second is nightclubs, because any nightclubs with alcohol sales, those are already heavily regulated by the state as far as where they can go within our zoning classifications. Therefore, we feel those are unnecessary to this ordinance, and we would recommend, if you choose to approve this and move it forward, that those 2 items be stricken from the list. Based upon that, we have brought forward what we believe council had requested. We do recommend approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. BC. Do we have any questions from the council?
Yes, Mayor.
Ms. McGee?
I did get a call on halfway houses. Is that something we can consider, or is that have some ramification that this should remain on the list?
everything on the list is subject to your approval. If you don't want to see those, the reason halfway houses were on it and on most of the lists is those are things which can have an impact because it's usually in a residential area. So depending on the number of people within the house, that's where the scrutiny comes from. We're not prohibiting it, but this will allow us to kind of determine and dig in. How many beds do you think you're going to have? Will that residential area be impacted by parking or traffic? So it's one where, again, there's enough of an impact we thought it might be appropriate, but it's not a mandatory. Nothing on the list is mandatory.
Matt, how long is when we were originally talking about this, we were talking about a period of time that people would have to get their ducks in a row, if you will, before this went into effect? Is that still the case?
Right now, this is written as an emergency, so it would if it passes, we'll need a secondary motion, which means it would go into effect on publication, which is Friday.
What happened to that we were going to have 90 days or however long for people to?
That's up to you, how we move it forward. This was the direction we believed we understood from council, from the council retreat. So it was put together that way, just to get it into place so we can start using these tools, but it's not required. If you don't want to pass this as an emergency, it would go into effect in 30 days. If you don't want to do that and you would want to set a specific date 90 days out, we can have it effective whenever council decides to, basically within the motion to approve that.
Let me interject for 1 minute and close the public hearing. Thank you.
Does that answer the question?
Councilor Reynolds, just to clarify one thing, that 90-day period was when we were initially talking about restricting processing and growing to agricultural and industrial. So that's when we talked about allowing folks 90 days to get all their ducks in a row before its enactment.
But is it that covered under marijuana businesses? Won't those still be affected?
Ask me that question again.
Well, the marijuana businesses are all listed on here, and they're going to be affected, and those people should have the opportunity. If they need to buy a building or add on or whatever they're going to do, they should have the opportunity to do that now.
And that's up to the council if they want to do that. But what my point was simply that when we had previously talked about 90 days, it was applicable to a prior ordinance which restricted where processing and growing would be allowed.
Thank you. Further discussion from the council?
Yes, I had a question. Now, the businesses that's in place now, you said they are going to be grandfathered in, correct?
Correct.
So is the special use going to have anything to do with their expansions? Or is that grandfathered in as well?
No, not as currently written. If council would like to include existing businesses to allow them to operate without having to go through this process, that would be an addition and a modification that could be made tonight to allow existing licensees within the existing categories to expand their businesses. But that's, again, up to the will of the council if you'd like to provide that in here. But it is not currently included.
I'm very concerned for our businesses in town, and a lot of people don't understand this, and I'd like to explain to you guys what vertical integration is. A dispensary is going to probably go out of business. A grower may go out of business, or a processor can go out of business. The goal of all of those people and their best chance for success is to move toward vertical integration. As they start their business, they may think they want to be in the dispensary or the processing or the grow, but their end goal is always to if they want to stay in business, is to move into vertical integration. And what that means is they're growing their product, they're processing their product, and they're also distributing their own product. They're in control of all their own product. As the dispensaries or as the businesses that stay in business, they will see, based on how it's worked in other states, that if they want to stay profitable and stay in business, they'll all need to move toward the vertical integration model. If we adopt this tonight as is, you're essentially dooming those businesses to not be able to vertically integrate. They may want to buy the building across the street, and I'm very uncomfortable with trying to do something tonight and vote on this, and also put these poor people in this position. If they all realized what we were doing, there would be 100 of them sitting right here right now waiting to talk. They don't realize what we're actually doing, or they would be here. But you have a lot of people who have spent a lot of money on this, and you've also heard me say, in the past about this is, a lot of people say we have too many cannabis businesses in town and we need to stop them and, not have any more. I'd like to point out that 420 just closed their door. They have gone under in everything that they're doing right here in the old warehouse location. Now, if you'll remember, go back to when 788 passed, they were one of the first people that came in. There was huge hoopla. They've got their address as 420 Main. They've named their dispensary 420 Main. They've got the best name. They've got a great location. Everyone was excited about the location downtown. Blah, blah, blah. Home run, can't hit, out of business, boom. So many of our cannabis businesses are about to go under. And I have been explaining that, in some of our meetings. It's not a guaranteed moneymaker. It's a very hard, long way to make a living. And if they're not moving toward vertical integration, they're going to go under. I still stand by what I've said in the past, too, that I believe the people who are going to be here 30, 40 years from now and are going to be the most successful cannabis operators in our area, they're not even here yet. They're not even in Oklahoma yet. The people who have come in far, it's going to be one wave after another of going under, and you can go look at all the other states who have done this. This follows suit. So many people will go under. Real estate will seek its highest and best use. The market will level itself out. When you go in and start adding regulation, you hurt the industry, you hurt the tax revenue, you hurt business. There is no line of people coming to Muskogee that are just standing in line waiting to develop. I said, go to the historical board, and we've made it so difficult to develop downtown. I mean, we've got to look at what the business, the historicalness of the building, what was there before. Is the new building going to meet that history? If you want to put a sign up, you've got to get a title company to print off all the businesses within 300 feet and mail out this giant mailer, and everyone come to a hearing to determine if you can have We're acting like there's a line of people downtown standing in line to develop businesses. There's not. There's absolutely not one. And we're also, with this, also acting like there's a line of businesses of people coming to Muskogee to go into business. We're not. We're clearly saying in this document and how we're doing other things that we're not necessarily open for business. The people who will be the most successful in this business are not here yet. The people who have the most money invested will not make it. The biggest people that you think are in this are not going to be here in the long run. And so we're saying we're going to close shop and just deal with what's going to happen. But what's going to happen is there's going to be a huge wave after wave of other people closing. I would beg you all to reconsider this. And please, until we know, is there going to be 90 days? Is nightclubs going to be this? Is churches going to be this? I'm not voting for this. As a real estate investor in this town, I know multiple people who have bought buildings for this. So buildings that were worth nothing on lots that were worth nothing before 788 came to town. You could not sell or lease those properties, and now all of a sudden there's a market for those properties. I know multiple people who have bought buildings for the sole purpose of leasing or selling or building out cannabis-oriented businesses. Lots of people hold those buildings for that. I'm a person who has acquired buildings for that very purpose myself, and to lease those to other operators. And you're talking about tying people's hands here who have invested money in our community, who are investors in our community, who are people who need to try to get their money back, and you're talking about tying their hands. And I know right now we say, oh, well, it's going to be special use and it's going to be real easy. You just come up with your use, come here, go to this. That's not how government works. Government is about shut you down. Government is about big them, little you. I mean, let's not pretend that this is going to be easy to go through this special use permit, because it's not. And I think that we're getting the cart in front of the horse here. We have the tools in our existing toolbox to deal with smell, zoning, all of these things. All we have to do is enforce the rules and the regulations that are already on our book. If we're going to add additional regulations to the book, we already don't enforce the rules and the laws that we have necessarily that well. It's already kind of a cluster. We're going to add more regulation and more rules to the ones that aren't already being used, and we're still going to be in the same spot. But we're going to be telling people, we're closed for business here. You probably shouldn't consider that. People are coming here because they want to develop, and we do have some the cannabis business is one of the only businesses that has brought in a string of folks who have come in and spent money and are continuing to spend money. And as 4-2 has gone under, another person is going to step right up and buy that building. And I would like to say one last thing. I'm extremely concerned about our dilapidated giant buildings, especially along the railroad tracks. And, you know, we just saw the old YMCA building collapse and fall into Main Street. And that has no ability to be remodeled, not even before it was done. The Muskogee Hotel is you can cost $12 to $14 million, maybe more with inflation right now, to go in there and remodel that building. That'll be worth 1.5 to 2.2, 2.5 when you're done. The only possible solution for some of these buildings that we have, especially along the railroad tracks where the horn toots and it signifies low rent district and low sales price. Nothing can go into those things. The sprinkler systems that you have to put in there, the elevators, all of the things to have an occupancy permit for a building with people in it is astronomically expensive. These buildings were built back before ADA. And so if we're going to close the door on that, we're going to close the door on the ability to actually develop some of these buildings. And I know that we're going to have a special use permit, but government doesn't work that way. Government goes the opposite direction. So I would really ask you guys to please, let's not vote on this tonight. Let's kick this back to staff and let's get this more spelled out. I see churches on here. I don't think the churches realize they're going to have to do that, or they'd be in here talking. I know the cannabis people wouldn't be. I'm not a nightclub guy, but I'm a restaurant guy, and I certainly don't support that. I'd like to be able to open another restaurant someday if I could, without going through all this special use stuff. So with that, I will stop. But I would ask you guys, there's not a line of people waiting to do this, folks. You're in one of the only categories over here in the cannabis that really scares me. There is a line of cannabis people coming to town to spend money, but there's not really anywhere else.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Oh, go ahead.
Please reconsider this, and let's put this on another time where we can review this and if you're going to pass this document, please get it into some form where we actually know what's going to happen. And let's give these people a chance to multi-integrate. Vertically integrate is the goal of all these places. If they don't know it now, they will. Because as they're going out of business, they're going to have to look at producing, processing, and selling their own products, or they will be cannibalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Further discussion from the council, or how do we want to proceed?
Matt, how long have we been working on this?
When was that?
Since August?
August.
We've been working on this since August. We have been discussing this back and forth, retreats, special call meetings on this subject. And I thought we were at that place where this was a compromise decision that we come up with a special use. We're not closing the door on any businesses, I don't believe. I think that we are just saying that, when those occasions arise, that we will take special look and make special decisions. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, I once again don't want anybody to run out and say that we are trying to get in front of and block cannabis, because that's not what we're doing. But our citizens have cried out to us many, many times that we need to come up with something. And this is that something, and this is that time that we, take action on what we sent you, and you have been working since August. And our citizens have been looking to see when this council is going to take some type of action. And this is that start and that beginning. So, the waiting the 90 days and all that kind of stuff, we have been talking about this, and everybody that I know of knew that something was coming. And today is that day. And I think that, it's time for us to move forward and do what we've been elected to do at some point. We have sent you to work since August, and I think, you have come back with a document that and have done everything that the council has asked you to do. And so now we owe it to our citizens to respond in some form.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I make the changes? If we can remove the churches, the halfway houses, the nightclubs, and put in there where the existing businesses is not affected by this special use, and I think that would be you said we can do it if that's
Correct.
possible. And I think we got some.
I think I need to be in there.
Other conversation from the council on their requests?
Mr. Mayor, I recognized.
Yes, Mr. Hoops.
This is something that just kind of been working on with just talking back and forth with different people in the city. And, we first came forward with, people want us to zone it differently. This is actually a really good compromise. We're not telling anyone they can't do anything. The thing is that if you want to go and grow somewhere and there's going to be a conflict that's pretty obvious that's going to arise, we can have that conflict addressed before you ever start. That way, it can be appeased the people around that property. And as for instance, as we have the one property that's waiting, that we put off for 45 days now, just because of this is why we want to pass this first. So we're not telling anyone that they cannot grow. We're not telling dispensaries that they can't have a dispensary there. One thing is that if you have a dispensary and someone wants to put a dispensary right next to you and do all this, you know, you may come up here and say, hey, I don't want this because we have the businesses met here. I mean, you got to look at this as an economic thing too, as these are businesses. I think that this ordinance has went through and it protects those that have already invested in this. And then as Councilman Reynolds says, that there's big players that's probably coming in the future, but I bet you those big players have a pretty good plan on how these things go, and it won't be real difficult to make sure that that gets pushed through if we need to. I think that this legislation should go through with the removal, as city attorney recommended, churches and nightclubs. And I think it should go through as an emergency ordinance. So that's my motion.
And I second that once again, and we're not standing in the way of business. You know, anyone that wants to come to Muskogee, we welcome them too. And so, you know, we don't want the misconception that we're trying to block or stop cannabis in any form. I second your motion.
We have a
Question
motion.
before we make a
Yes,
vote.
ma'am.
Roy, when is the last motion, when is the last day that any of these businesses can get in now before they go through these steps of special use?
Friday.
Friday, okay.
And Roy, can we be clear on the ones that Tracy mentioned that we would exclude?
I think we wanted it included in Dr. Who's.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I just want.
Well, Dr. Who's is
Yeah,
removal.
you can amend that motion to
I think you left out
Houses.
the halfway houses.
Yeah, churches, halfway houses, and nightclubs.
I think halfway houses should stay on this, because if they're going to come and put a halfway house right next to me, I want to have to come and have a say-so.
I feel the same way with Dr. Who's.
Okay.
Council, we have a motion and a second.
Let's verify for a moment what the motion and second is. So it is to strike nightclub, churches from the list in section 90-2303. And was there any other part, Dr. Who's, of your motion that I'm?
And then existing businesses.
Okay.
Adding the language as
All right.
existing businesses.
So what Councilor McGee mentioned?
Correct.
Okay.
Can we give people any longer time than Friday?
I think we've had people kind of been waiting on us to pass this so they can move forward with their zoning. I think it would be, we need to do our, kind of what we said we were going to do.
So the ordinance is set up as an emergency, which means that once this motion is voted on, let's say it passes, then there'll be a separate vote to declare an emergency. That requires 6 members to approve that. Actually 3/4 would be 7. 7 members should approve that. So then if that passes, then it'll go into effect upon publication, which the soonest date it'll be published is Friday, February 11th. If that motion fails, the emergency fails, then it will go into effect within 30 days from publication, which will be probably March 12th. Now, as we all know, if a motion that is made fails, that doesn't preclude making another motion to account for any additional criteria that the council may want to consider. But for purposes of the motion that Dr. Who's made and that Deputy Mayor Reed seconded, I believe, that would be to strike nightclubs and churches from the list of uses in section 90-23-03, as well as adding a subsection D to section 90-2301, which says the following. Any business operating under a current use identified in 90-2303 shall be considered a legal nonconforming use, and in that regard, any expansion, rehabilitation, renovation of said existing use shall be exempt from the provisions of this article. So that's, I believe, what the motion and second should be and what will be voted on. So it'd be to make those two additions, well, one strike through in section 90-2301, and then 90-2303, and then one addition in 90-2301.
Mr. Tucker, Ken, on the expansion, I mean, if they, if they're here in the way that's written now, with that language you just said, if, say, they want to expand, but they want to expand 3 miles from where they're at right now, would that mean that they would be exempt from this?
No, it would be specific to the property unless you want it
Okay, thank you.
otherwise.
And that's how state revenue licenses are to apply.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I recognize.
Yes.
I just like to say thank you, Matt, for all your hard work. Thank you very much. Turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
No.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. The item passes. Do we have a motion to declare an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to declare an emergency. Further discussion on the motion to declare an emergency.
Mr. Mayor, might be recognized.
Yes, Mr.
I would
Reynolds.
ask you guys not to pass the emergency clause, and let's give our citizens who are in business, what would it give them if we don't pass emergency, Roy?
30 days from publication. So publication being February 11th, 30 days from that. Would basically delay the effective date 30 days.
So it'd give 30 days for people who are currently in business or someone who's recently bought a building but hasn't got their application finished, hasn't got that pushed through, this would give them an opportunity to do so. I would ask you to please think about those folks and give them the opportunity to at least get their business finished up and submitted. I don't think 30 days is going to change anything one way or another. It's too late for someone who doesn't already have a project in the works, but if they do have a project in the works, that gives them the opportunity to bring it together and get it done by that date. So I would please ask you to not vote for this.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. We have a motion and a second. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Further discussion. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
No.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
No.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
The item passes.
The item passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval to authorize submission of letters of intent to the City of Muskogee Foundation for fiscal year 2022-2023 grant cycle for city projects as follows. A, public safety radio upgrade, $3,382,457.50. B, Langston Park splash pad, $250,000. C, senior station parking, Jefferson Highway, $50,000. D, water park, $500,000 with $500,000 CIP match. E, swim and fitness center, $500,000 with $500,000 CIP match. F, teen center / YBC operations, $150,000. G, teen center facility assessment and improvements, $50,000. H, portable stage, $50,000 with $50,000 match. And J, city attorney community service, $100,000, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mayor and members of council, I appreciate your time. This has been a long evening. We've accomplished a lot of good business for the city. This is something we do every year. We apply to the City of Muskogee Foundation for grants. We do have a PowerPoint I'd like to go through quickly to accompany this agenda item. The letter of intent, letter of inquiry, I guess, is the first round of the foundation grant application process. They are due this Thursday. The mayor has talked with the foundation to allow us to have an additional extension of a week, should it be needed, because generally we try and show these projects at a committee meeting and then at a council meeting. Due to the way the calendar fell this year with a fifth Monday, we did not have 2 council meetings before their grant applications are due. However, none of these projects, I think, are surprises to you. There's the foundation's schedule. Their grant budget this year is, for new additional grants that have not been awarded in the past, is $2.5 million, which is significantly more than last year. This is our largest grant request, and it's slightly different, I would like to just point out. We've had some new information that has come in the last week. The number, I'll get to the difference in the number briefly. But first, you may remember Chief Moore came and talked about the rather sudden decision by the manufacturer of our public safety radios to quit supporting those radios, and how we've been able to replace a few every year, and now we're going to have to start replacing them a much faster rate because they are no longer being supported. We can't get parts. That's not just affecting police and fire, it's affecting EMS, 911 center, sheriff's office as well. So we talked about partnerships earlier in the evening. We're partnering with these other entities for a grant. We would like to propose that to the council for consideration. And so the city would like to put forward for police and fire those numbers that you see before you. 911 center would need that 1.4 million. EMS has a match, that 804,457 is what would be requested. They have a 25% match, which would be $268,152.50. The change since the agenda was published is the sheriff's office has come up with a 25% match as well. So you see that number of $3,279,270 is less than what we had originally requested to be granted to us by $103,250, which is what the Sheriff's Department is willing to put forward as a match to request of the City of Muskogee Foundation. This is vital equipment. It is equipment that we've got to replace much faster than usual outside of the usual budget cycle that would allow for that to happen. And we're going to try and partner with these agencies should this council so desire. Real quickly, Langston Park Splash Pad, council has instructed us to apply for any and all grants available for that. Jefferson Highway and Senior Station parking. This is an expansion of parking just to the east of the Senior Station on Okmulgee in that little triangle there. We would also add a Jefferson Highway sort of memorial and roadside attraction. We have CIP money that the voters have approved and the council has approved to expand the water park, add amenities as well as maintain. And this, we're asking the foundation to match $500,000 of CIP money. And likewise for the Swim and Fitness Center, CIP money that the voters have approved and the council has approved. And we're asking for the foundation to match that as well. And again, allow for possibly expansion of Swim and Fitness Center as well as maintain the existing structure. Also, an annual grant we apply for the Teen Center for the Youth Volunteer Corps operations, both the summer program and the year-round youth program. And then a facility assessment. There's been discussion about what do we want to do with the Teen Center in the future, and the council has given direction that we'd like to have that done. We're going to ask the foundation to help us fund that facility assessment that would also allow us to make minor improvements within that $50,000 budget, basically a planning grant on how to improve the Teen Center offering to the city, whether that's in the existing facility or somewhere else. We're also going to request a grant for a portable stage, requesting $50,000. We requesting that the council allow us to use tourism money of up to $50,000 as a match. The foundation has considered this before, but we've not had a match before, so we feel like that we may have a better chance if we apply with a match. And then we have a very highly successful program run by the City Attorney's Office for Community Service, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Tucker to briefly update you on that.
So just very quickly, Mayor, members of the council, this is the 10th year of our City Attorney Office running of the Community Service Program. We have an adult and juvenile component. Within the last calendar year, we have served more than 300 individuals who have been able to work off in excess of $30,000 worth of fines. So our request in this regard is the same as it has been in prior years, and that is for you all to approve us writing for a grant of $100,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I want the council to take into consideration that we are considering this item for your consideration as a committee item because we do have a week's extension. I'm not quite sure, Mr. Tucker, what the motion would be on that to give the council that 1 week to digest this information to be certain that the list is to their liking before submission to the foundation. Because as Mr. Miller stated, I did ask the foundation to give us an additional week to be certain that we handled it like a committee meeting as we have done in times past.
I move for approval.
Well, I would like certainly any feedback from council members individually or as a group tonight on the items proposed so that we can be prepared for next Monday. And I believe that would be appropriate. We do have a regularly scheduled council meeting next Monday. So any changes we'd like to have in a timely manner to be able to put forward for the council to consider next Monday.
That'd be Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday at noon is usually when we finalize our agenda items.
Council, are we clear that if there's any changes or additions or subtractions, that we will have them into Mr. Miller's office by noon on Wednesday?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Van.
I like everything on here, but I want to make this clear on this teen center. Now that $150,000, explain that again, Mr. Miller.
So we run 2 different programs out of the Teen Center. We run kind of a summer youth program, and we run the YVC Youth Volunteer Corps. And we run, excuse me?
Which is good.
Yeah, so that's basically kind of our operational funding for the Teen Center. Helps hire staff, helps them do the programs that they do. The foundation has been pretty faithful about granting us that funding for us to continue those operations that I think are very important. We do feel it's very, without that funding, having the building there is not doing us much good. We need that operational funding.
The $50,000 is going where?
No, that's the $50,000 is, the $150 is for those operational here, pardon me, so the $150 is for those 2 programs, the summer program
Right.
and the year-round program. The $50,000 is for the facility assessment for us to say, what do we want to do as a community for our teens in the future? What kind of facility do we want to have, and where do we want to have it, and what does it need to look like?
Okay, that don't include any repairs, anything like that?
It can, depending on how we write it. I don't know how much money it'll take to do the assessment. So the planning grant, foundation planning grants are usually about $50,000, and so that's why that number is there.
The reason I was asking that is $50,000. To me, that teen center, I'm kind of like the mayor said months ago, and I've been in there and I've seen the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't need children in a building with mold. I can take you in there and show you that mold. When it rains hard, how that water comes in there, down those walls, floods it. I mean, it floods it, especially in that foyer when you walk in. I just hate to see good money don't go on after bad money. Really, that thing needs to be tore down and a new one built in that same location. And that's all I got to say, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Van, that was my commentary also, that we hope the assessment yields the outcome being that in the same location we'll build a new building, because I think as it stands now, the roof repair is nearly $1 million. And I hope that the assessment will show for 1.3 or 1.5, we could just have a brand new building where it is. It's a walkable community. We serve a lot of young people and families right at that site. So hopefully that's what the assessment will show, but we'll have to spend the money to get the assessment to get the outcome so we can move forward.
And I definitely have the pictures on what I went through that day. I'm not going to mention her name. Called me over there to look at it, and I looked at it, and I took pictures.
Now, we're all in agreement that that's a very old building that was gifted to the city, as many old buildings in this community are gifted to the city, and we have to try and figure out how to take care of them. So,
Mr. Tucker, do we have clarity on the motion?
Yes, it would be to grant preliminary approval on this item and set the matter for further consideration at the regular scheduled city council meeting on 2/14.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos. Yes. Tracy McGee. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. That is the end of that meeting. We are adjourned.